Hello, welcome. In this video, we're going to orient users better in Google Sheets. Why I'm saying it, the reason why this video exists is because when we create Google Sheets, we typically don't think of other people, we think of ourselves. But even in thinking of ourselves, we want to help our future selves understand what is going on inside of a Google Sheet. What did we do in the Google Sheet and where to go in the Google Sheet? And so we want to help our future selves, but also if we are making spreadsheets that our business is being run on and we're hiring other people, or we're an employee or a contractor and we're creating a sheet for our employers or our boss or our coworkers, others are going to use this spreadsheet now or in the future. So we want to make sure our spreadsheets are well oriented, have good signposts to other places, and people will understand what's going on. So I have these 7 tips here for you that are going to help you immensely signpost your sheets much better. So let's get going. First, I recommend starting with a start page. Yes, literally naming a tab start or start here. Put on that page like a table of contents, some description of what tabs are existing in the sheet and what do those tabs do. What you can do once you do that is you can actually put a URL to each of the tabs. Now, this tip is not just inside of a sheet, but actually outside. So if you create a sheet like I did here, the very first tab up in the URL is going to have at the end edit hashtag GID equals 0. This means that this tab is the very first tab or sheet created in a spreadsheet. Now, every single tab that we create, if we go to that tab and we look up the doc.google.com spreadsheets D and the ID are all the same. Over here at the end it says GID equals 6704067001. That is the ID of this exact tab. So if you copy this entire URL and you share that with someone, they will go to this exact tab. If you go to this tab over here, the GID over here is a completely different number. So this helps you orient people to where do they start. Now, this is very useful if the very first tab you create might not be start here. And so if you just have someone come to the sheet and you've created a bunch of sheets and then you create a start here tab, they're not going to really know where to go. They're going to go somewhere and then they're going to have to search for that start tab. So this allows you to link directly to the tab that you want them to start at. So if it's a start here tab, or maybe it's a summary tab where you have sales. Now, inside of sheets, you have a really cool option. If you start naming your sheets, like here, we have data, we have summary, we can link to them. So we can say start, we can have data, we can have summary. Let's try to type that correctly. Now, if we click only once on the cell, we do Command K on a Mac, we're going to add a link. And now if we type in summary, it shows up with this square looking thing icon, and then it'll say summary, the name of the tab. So we click that, and now this is a link directly to that tab. It's pretty cool, and Google's pretty smart about it. If we just do Command K, you can see right at the top it says start. If we do Command K for data, right there at the top, data is suggested for us. So Google's pretty smart about that. We can also reformat these. I have some other videos about buttons and creating pretty cool button looking things inside of Google Sheets. I'm not going to go into that in this video, but I do want to touch on one thing about color. Now, if we are entering information, if we ourselves need to enter information, we know where we're going, right? Where we know where we're going to enter information and where formulas will show up sort of somewhere else, the totals will show up somewhere else. But 2 people won't know where to enter data. One of them is someone else using this Google Sheet, then the second one is ourselves in the future. So I like to help my future self, and what I like to do is color of a cell in which data is entered by a user is this garish blue. And now, why is this the choice of color? Is because 100% of the time you will never use this color to actually color your sheet. This color is like anti-human nature. It is the brightest, it's cyan, it's the brightest blue, aquamarine. There's a couple of other blues. Here we have blue and cornflower blue that are much nicer to use. So we will never actively use this color for headers, for design in any way. It's almost the most rudest. But what it is, why it works so well, is because it stands out amongst any design that you might have. So if you have some nice beige, some nice pastels, or even a dark or a bright theme going on, this bright blue is going to stand out. And what's most interesting about this is to be consistent. If you yourself use this bright blue for anywhere that you're going to enter data into and you want the other formulas to sort of work on their own, you yourself are going to get accustomed to this. And two, if other people, your coworkers, your boss, your employees are going to realize, hey, every single time I hit a sheet that this person creates, that is where I put in the information. Staying consistent is going to increase your productivity at least one-fold, like 2x, right? You don't have to have that extra bit of information, the extra email, the extra Loom video of saying, this is where you enter data. This color and this color alone, using this consistently across all of your sheets, will increase your productivity and the communication among your teammates. So this color for data is A1, one of the most productive tips I could ever have for you. Now, here's another sort of intuitive, non-intuitive thing. When we have data, and we have it many times, we have sort of a sum total, right? We will sum total this, and in our formulas and in our sheets and our spreadsheets, we will do this 100% of the time. You will have all of this data that you want to add up. You will have at the bottom a total. Now this total will be in the column in which it has all of the individual things that it has to add up to. This is a very intuitive thing. This is how math works, right? How we notate and how we write math 100% of the time. What I find is that in spreadsheets in particular, when we're sharing them with other people, or even if we want to see for ourselves, our information, maybe we create a sum total of all our sales, and then 1 week later, we come back to that same sheet and we have to scroll down to the bottom to find this total. So we want to do one thing, and this helps immensely orient people to the data they're looking for, right? Is take this total row and move it to the top. Now, this is completely anti-intuitive. This is heresy of math. But we're not doing math here. We want to orient people better to the data they need to see. And we read top to bottom and left to right. So when someone comes to this page, data, the first thing they will see is they will see total and the number total there. That is the information we want. Now, of course, what's better is even creating some kind of summary page where they only need to see 3 or 4 or 5 pieces of information from other sheets, combine them into a summary page. But sometimes we might not have so many different things. We just have some data column and we want to see a total. It's okay to keep it on a page. It's sort of okay, right? But just orient people to the number they're looking for when they look at this page. Now, when they're looking for data, we want to name the tabs for what they're looking for, or the action that is happening on those tabs. So that's why I like to name a summary tab. I like to name my Start Here tab Start, the action that someone is doing. What am I doing? I'm looking for what? I'm looking for the data. There is the data. I like to name my tabs the action that is happening on that page. This scratch is very interesting because most of the time we will say notes. We will add notes maybe to contacts, right? We have all these notes here. And then we'll create a tab or we'll call it roadmap. We'll call it roadmap here. But what's happening is that we are actually sort of writing notes. The action we're taking is we're scratching. So I like to do scratch because also sometimes we'll run into some things where we want to do like a quick formula, a quick calculation, and I like to put on a scratch one. So it's not necessarily that there are notes there. It is where we can do something and it is not affecting any formulas on any other tabs. It is wholly in and of itself. We don't have to create a new spreadsheet. And we know when coming back to this sheet maybe a month later or a year later, there is no important information on here. There's just scratch data on here that we don't need to affect the other pages. So that's what I like to do is name the tabs by their action. Now, the last tip I have for you on orienting users is something that I see very, very often, and I have an entire other video about headers. But if we have some kind of header on a page, the first thing we will do is probably do a very bold and very big, we'll even literally bold the words, right? And we'll have, maybe it'll look like the default Arial, right? And this is pretty bad because when we come back to the sheet time and time again, one, if we're working in the sheet every single day, we know what these headers are. We don't need to orient ourselves to the header. We understand spreadsheets have headers intuitively. So what I like to do is I like to desaturate this. I like to get it down to very gray tones, and I also like to have a very thin font. So I will choose Oswald many times. I will not bold it. And what this does is it allows us to actually see the data faster. We're not distracted or oriented to the header. The header is literally more of a footnote. Like, we understand what first names, last names, dates look like, and if we want to reference it, it's there. But creating or desaturating headers or creating less seen headers actually orient us to the data much, much faster. And I have an entire other video about that. Go watch that video. I highly recommend it to watch more about how to do headers. And there are other options other than headers, especially on dashboards. We find ourselves creating headers here. Go watch other dashboard videos. I have an entire course on better dashboards. Thank you for watching this video. We went through 7 ways to orient users and yourself. Your future self is a user in Google Sheets better. So we created a start page. We found out about what that GID in the URL means. We linked to other tabs inside of a sheet. And we found where do we enter data by the color, this garish blue or cyan. We showed results first above any data. We also learned to name tabs by their actions, and we learned about desaturating headers. At least I showed you a little bit about that. Go watch the entire other video about headers. I'm so excited so that you're learning how to make better spreadsheets. Bye.